I never imagined I would reach a point where my wife and I became like strangers living under the same roof. Yet here we are. Once, we were the couple everyone admired. The kind that effortlessly finished each other's sentences, shared laughter over the most trivial jokes, and couldn't go a single day without expressing our love. Friends often referred to us as soulmates, convinced that our bond was unbreakable, and for a long time, I shared that sentiment wholeheartedly. When we first married, everything felt idyllic. We built a home together, full of dreams for the future, vowing to always prioritize one another above everything else. The way she looked at me back then, with such warmth and affection, made me feel invincible. After long, exhausting workdays, she would greet me with a kiss, her eyes sparkling with genuine curiosity as she inquired about my day. We would spend hours preparing dinner side by side, engaging in deep conversations that revealed our hopes, fears, and aspirations. Each night, we would fall asleep wrapped in each other's embrace, feeling secure and cherished. However, as time went on, things began to shift in subtle yet profound ways. At first, I dismissed the signs, convincing myself that it was merely a phase. Perhaps she was stressed from work or grappling with personal issues she didn't want to discuss. The late nights she spent scrolling through her phone and the lack of engagement when I entered the room seemed trivial at first, moments that could easily be overlooked. But then came the excuses. "I'm too tired," she would say when I suggested we dine out, "and I have a lot on my mind," when I attempted to initiate a heartfelt conversation. The late-night messages on her phone became increasingly frequent, and I felt a growing sense of unease. One evening, I finally gathered the courage to ask her what was wrong, expecting her to express that she felt overwhelmed and needed my support. Instead, she turned to me with an unfamiliar expression, one that conveyed a chilling indifference. "I don't have to prioritize you," she said flatly, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. "I have my own life, my own needs. You'll be fine." It felt as if my heart had been ripped from my chest. I had devoted years to ensuring her happiness, convinced that love meant putting the other person first and making sacrifices to build something resilient. The painful realization washed over me like icy water. She no longer viewed me in the same affectionate light. That night, something within me shifted. I stopped trying to fight for someone who had already given up on me. My efforts dwindled. I ceased asking about her day, stopped checking in when she came home late, and halted my attempts to plan dates or surprise her with thoughtful gifts. If she wanted to live her life without considering me, I decided to let her. At first, she didn't seem to notice my withdrawal. Preoccupied with work, friends, and her phone, living in her own bubble of distraction. As time passed, the dynamics of our relationship began to change. One evening, she returned home to find me watching television alone, lost in a show that once would have captivated us both. "You didn't wait for me to eat?" she asked, an edge of surprise in her voice. I barely glanced up, murmuring that I assumed she was busy. A week later, she brought up our upcoming anniversary, inquiring about our plans, almost as if testing my interest. I shrugged and asked if she genuinely wanted to celebrate, her frown revealing an unexpected surprise at my indifference. The day of our anniversary arrived, and neither of us acknowledged it. The distance that separated us widened. We no longer fought or argued, but love had evaporated like mist in the morning sun. We became two individuals cohabiting the same space, sharing a bed yet barely communicating. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken words and buried emotions, an invisible wall growing taller between us. Then one night, she finally broke. As I lay in bed scrolling through my phone, she entered the room and sat beside me, her gaze lingering on me as if searching for a connection that had long since faded. "I feel like I'm losing you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I allowed her words to sink in, the weight of them pressing heavily on my chest. Finally, I replied, "You already did. Tears filled her eyes as she confessed she never intended to push me away, that she had assumed I would always be there, unwavering in my love. Yet, in that moment, I realized I had reached my limit. A few weeks later, I quietly packed my bags, devoid of any dramatic confrontation. Just a quiet acknowledgement that this chapter of our lives was over. Standing by the door, ready to leave, she looked at me with glistening eyes, desperation etched on her face. "Can we fix this?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. I sighed deeply, feeling a profound ache in my chest, knowing it would linger long after I walked away. "You didn't prioritize me when you had the chance. Now, I'm prioritizing myself." With that, I stepped out into the world, leaving behind the remnants of what once was. It's ironic how love can fade, not through heated arguments or explosive confrontations, but through a gradual, quiet realization that sometimes the person you love the most may never love you in return. For 4 long years, I had put her first, but now, for the first time in a long while, I was choosing myself, and in that choice, I finally felt a sense of freedom.